As Vermont is the Green Mountains or maple syrup, the Morgan horse symbolizes what makes Vermont, Vermont. Today we're visiting the home of the Morgan horse in Weybridge to learn how this breed of horse has remained a champion of the equestrian community for over 2 centuries. Good afternoon, and thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. To borrow a line from Calvin Coolidge, Vermont is a state I love, and one of my most favorite places in Vermont is the Morgan Horse Farm. Something abides here, an essence that's difficult to describe, but so easily felt. Later in the program, we'll tell you how you can see and feel that for yourself. Katie, you have a very close connection to the Morgan horse. Tell me about it.
I did. I had a Morgan growing up, and actually the UVM Morgan Horse Farm is why I chose to come to the University of Vermont as an undergrad.
This place?
This place. This was the reason. Over Penn State. That was my choice.
We're here to talk with one of the stewards of this legacy. Katie Ballard is the UVM Cal's faculty advisor of the farm. Help viewers understand the importance of the Morgan horse. What's the big deal? So what?
Well, I think the Morgan horse is special because it's so versatile. We can drive them, we can ride them English, we can ride them Western, we can do things like dressage with them. And I think it's their presence. They just have a way about them. They like to show off.
For a horse breed that's only been around for 200 years, the oldest American horse breed, correct? Mm-hmm. What is it about Morgans that still makes them relevant?
Well, I think that they've adapted, right? For over 200 years, they were the workhorses in the landscape of Vermont. They also, though, had the presence to take the family to church on Sunday. They helped found the racing, the standardbred racing. They were the racing horses of the 19th century, and so that's really what they've adapted as the use of horses has changed over the years.
Who was Justin Morgan?
The breed and our story started in Vermont a long time ago.
Justin Morgan was actually the person who owned Figure, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but he was a schoolmaster, he was a composer that lived in Randolph, Vermont, and had this little horse that could do anything.
So he buys a horse and it then becomes the Morgan horse.
Then becomes the Morgan horse because of his reputation. Okay. You know, he could out-trot, he could outrun, he could out-pull. And that word spread over the landscape of Vermont and wanted to breed to this little stallion.
So let's talk about the horse that started it all, Figure, who holds a prominent place at the farm. How did Figure into the Morgan horse?
Well, he was that horse that really founded this breed. He had a unique trait that he was able to stamp his likeness onto horses that he was bred to, regardless of what breed they were. Mm-hmm. They seemed to have similar traits to him. So I think the term we use is prepotency. And that has, if you look at some of our Morgans here on the farm today, they look very similar to the statue that's here at the UVM Morgan Horse Farm.
And is that common in genetics and horse breeding, that the lineage would continue like that?
Not as common. He's, I think, from what I know, the only breed of horse that really traces back to a single horse.
Interesting. As someone who's dedicated their lives to horse genetics and breeding and things like that, how much of a rare breed is it to pass those genetics along? Is Figure this just once in a lifetime kind of horse?
He's kind of a freak of nature. I think we all agree on that. But I think that's really what made the breed so special and so instrumental. Here we're celebrating 250 years of the United States, mm-hmm. and certainly the Morgan horse has played a pivotal role in that history.
What is the breeding program like at the farm nowadays?
So nowadays, the breed, we focus our breeding on developing a horse with good temperament, soundness as well, but still letting the horse tell us what they want to be when they grow up, whether they're suitable for driving, whether they're suitable for Western pleasure, or the fancy show horse that picks up their feet. I think each horse lets us know where their direction's going to be.
So the horse kind of tells you what kind of horse it is.
It tells us what sort of discipline. We want them all to be athletes. Horses are athletes. It's just what discipline they're most best suited for.
And is all of that doesn't come from the breeding, that comes from the training, right?
Well, it comes from the breeding as well. So we might be trying to breed a specific horse for a specific discipline, but when they come out, we let them tell us what they're supposed to be. I wanted to be a jockey. When I was born, I'm over 6 feet tall, so I'm more suitable for basketball than I was to be a jockey.
Gotcha. Morgan Horse Farm is a top tourist attraction in Vermont. Why is it important to share this with the public?
I think it just shows us the history of our country through the Morgan breed, and how pivotal the breed was in exploring and moving to the West, and things like that. They had an important role in the Civil War as cavalry mounts, and so that it's really just a great way to give that message.
One of the most public-facing aspects of this farm is the internship program and the apprenticeship programs. Talk about the learning and training opportunities that it provides for interns and apprentices.
Well, the apprentice program is a year-long commitment by the students that take part in that. And the internships are part of accredited classes at the University of Vermont. So students get an opportunity, even though we're located a ways from campus, but it gives them an opportunity to be part of a breeding program. And seeing horses that are from young to old to breeding age and the whole breeding process.
It's more than just a cool class at UVM. Why get students off campus? Isn't everything we need for UVM students right in Burlington?
Well, I think Burlington offers great opportunities in their horse program and the dairy program as well. But I think this farm adds a little bit different in that the horses can be housed in herd situations, lets the students really observe natural behavior of horses and how they interact with each other. And that really helps us in our training techniques, how we manage horses, if we have a good understanding of how those horses interact with each other.
And as a teacher, experiential learning and actually that hands-on learning is so important to understand whatever your subject matter is, right?
It is, and especially on the reproduction side. That's certainly my passion. I really enjoy teaching from the stallion to the mare to the foaling aspect. All those opportunities are available here at the farm.
And how many foals do we have on the ground this year?
So we have 7 foals this year on the farm.
We're here in early summer, so any more to come? Or?
No more to come. Our breeding season is we try to keep it between March and May for these mares to foal out. But we are in the breeding process. So we're preparing for next year's foals. It takes 11 months to the gestation period for a mare. So we're breeding for next year's foals.
Talk about the breeding program and that aspect of it. How important is it to the farm, not only for the legacy and the history to continue the breeding program, but a horse that comes from here has a UVM designation. Why is that important, and what does it mean to the breeding program for the farm and the university?
So I think that UVM prefix really, people are attracted to it. They know what the breeding program has been over the years. It's been a very consistent program, really starting from what we call the government line, when the U.S. government was involved in breeding horses back in 1907.
In this facility?
In this facility, yep. Really the Morgan breed is the only breed that the U.S. government had an active horse breeding program for cavalry use.
What do you do do you sell genetic materials and things like that? Is that part of the program as well?
Yes, and that gets us into some of, the Morgan breed was one of the first that allowed artificial insemination and for horses to be registered back in the late 1980s. And my colleague Josie Davis and I we did a lot of stallion semen freezing, preserving those genetics, and we are still using and people are requesting the use of those genetics from 30 years ago today. So it's certainly critical.
We talked a little bit about horse people when we started talking, and that is something that is a big part of your world, is those genetics and those certain lines. That is most of what the horse world is getting those different genetics, correct?
Yes, it is. Yep. And everybody has their own preference for different types of lines and that they're trying to trace back to. And we just provide one of those opportunities really straight from the government, U.S. government program.
And are those the horses that come from here? Do you get the UVM designation if your genetics are from here, or does the horse have to be born here?
Horse has to be born here.
Okay.
So that is one of those things that, yep, they'll know if the horse was born here by the UVM prefix.
And we were talking before a little bit about, you know, the difference between Morgan people and horse people, and you have some visitors today that you met that are from Australia. Yes. That have come all the way here because of how important this place is.
Yes, I was watching as they stood by the statue and were getting their pictures taken by their family, and I said, these are Morgan breeders, because they just want to be with Justin Morgan and following up with them. Yep, one of the women was the president of the Australian Morgan Horse Club.
And I think I said, how do you know? And you just knew.
I did.
You've got a signature event, since speaking of visitors coming to the farm, a signature event coming up at the start of August. Tell us about Vermont Day. What's happening on August 1st?
So Vermont Day is the annual day that we welcome everybody in the state of Vermont and beyond to come to the farm. We have, of course, the mares and the foals, which are certainly our premier attraction. But we also have an opportunity for our equine manager, Jamie McGuire, to kind of use our apprentices to show off our young stock, show different stages of training, and share with the public. How do you train a young horse? What are the different steps that we go through on the farm to make them a saleable purchase by hopefully people that are interested in buying a UVM Morgan?
And that's part of the game, right? Is making people want to buy UVM Morgans.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Katie. Really appreciated speaking with you today and learning about the Morgan horse.
Thank you, Keith.
Once again, Vermont Day at the Morgan Horse Farm in Weybridge happens Saturday, August 1st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Details are on the website listed on the screen, along with the phone number. My thanks to my colleague Ben Willis and our summer intern Henry Zamanyan for making this program possible. I'm Keith Silva. This is Across the Fence. Thanks for being part of our family.